Look, thank you for joining us here at the Rockpit today. How's your day going?
Going great. How was yours?
Not too bad at all. Not too bad at all. Great way to start by chatting with you. So, welcome to the Rockpit and welcome to Australia. You're about to head to our country middle of July for a quick run of shows with the Spill Canvas. Um, Tell me a little bit about the connection between the two bands.
Spill Canvas are buddies of ours. In so basically, Juliana Theory hadn't done anything as a band really since the year 2010, and in 2019, the Spill Canvas, for some reason, somebody in their camp reached out to somebody connected to us and asked us if we would consider opening for their tour acoustic, and we had never done that before. And so Josh and I ended up doing that tour, and that kind of led to us doing that tour every day, like hanging out every day and playing music together, like on a month-long tour, which was something we hadn't done in like 15 years or something. I guess at that point, probably like 13 years. We just had such a great time that we were like, we should start doing the band again and writing new songs and going on tour more often and putting out music and, signing a deal and all that. And that might not have happened had the Spill Campus not offered us that tour. So we just kind of, they're homies. We had just, yeah, good dudes.
Excellent. Now you're both celebrating anniversaries. You guys are celebrating, 25 years of Emotion is Dead, an album that you wrote when you were 20 years old. How does Emotion is Dead sit with you 25 years later, and is it a reflective look back on the album?
Yeah, it's crazy to think that I wrote it when I was three, and I'm 28 now. Um, yeah, it's funny because it's like more time has passed since the record was made than any of us were. Like none of us were. It's been 25 years, and none of us were even close to 25 when we made the record. So I don't think we ever could have imagined that we would be talking to anybody about it 25 years later, let alone playing it and going to Australia, going to other countries. So it's really, yeah, it's cool. It's wild.
Absolutely. And playing an album from top to bottom, are there songs that surprise you with reactions from the audience? Are there, deeper album cuts that resonate with others and you go, that's, the purpose of what we did and what we were doing?
Yeah, that's interesting. It's a good question. Um, the last song on the record is called "You Always Say Goodnight, Goodnight." It's like a 9 minute long, I guess, power ballad that becomes like this just uh, I don't want to say prog rock, but influenced by that kind of long, jammy, just like extended, big, epic outro that was very not typical for the style of music that we were associated with, like the scene that we were associated with at the time. And I remember when we put that song on the record and we were recording it and writing it, I remember thinking like everybody's going to hate this. And it doesn't necessarily get as crazy of a reaction as some of the more immediate bangers, but it gets a really big response to this day. And so it's just, yeah, we wouldn't have expected it at the time. So you just never know what is going to resonate with people. And at the same time, I remember certain songs, writing certain songs and thinking, yeah, people are gonna, this is gonna be the one. And then of course it's not the one. And nobody cares about it. So you just never know.
Is there a song on Emotion is Dead that particularly holds a special place within you?
Um, I would say probably the opening track, Into the Dark, probably, because I feel like it was a really good amalgamation of what I felt like the band did best, which was pop song structure and kind of anthemic melodies, but still being musically creative and with big guitars and feeling like it didn't necessarily sound like anything else, but it had its DNA from various places that you could maybe point to. So yeah, I was that song seems to me to hold up. There's certain songs on the record that I don't think held up as much, but that one I like a lot.
And when you talk about, this I guess rebirthing of the band, or the re-inspiration of the band with those shows with the spill canvas, approaching songs acoustically, um, was that something that, and how much of Emotion is Dead did you play with in that realm?
We probably played about a third of it, maybe, but we had never really we had done maybe a couple acoustic shows ever. We did one at, I remember, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for something, and we did a couple little weird things, but we didn't ever really play acoustic. And the only times that we ever did before that, we played exactly the same parts that we played on the record on acoustic, and it was awful. It just didn't sound right. And so when Josh and I decided to do the tour, we thought, let's reimagine these songs, think about them at the core of what they are, being, you know, a, a guitar accompaniment and like a vocal, really. Like, what is the campfire version of the song? What is the most minimal version of the song? And then start from that and then make it as much of the original as you can be, but with keeping the campfire mentality in mind. And I think that was fun and cool because it helped us to think about our songs in a different way and think about connecting with an audience in a different way, because you can't lean on the dynamics of something getting huge and having drums and having these big loud things, and you just have to kind of strip the song down to something so small and intimate that you can't really rely on any of the outside things. So it's just like, is the song okay? Is the song good? Is it stand on its own, just campfire style? So it was a good learning experience, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the music industry has always had this love of putting labels on music and music styles, certain pigeonholes. I mean, for people that might be unfamiliar with the Juliana Theory, how would you best describe the band sound, I guess, then and now?
I would just say that it's pop rock that is not afraid to try to we're not afraid to be emotional, but at the same time we're not afraid to sonically try things, and we tend to be a little bit musically schizophrenic, but not completely, but enough to where you don't know necessarily one song next to this might be a really heavy song with melodic vocals, and then the next song might be an acoustic ballad, and then the next song might have a bunch of drum machines and synths, and then there might be a bubblegum pop song. So we kind of always felt like we should be able to do as much as we can within the limitations of what we are, and that being like a proper rock and roll band that plays primarily live real instruments.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I just find that the take on things, and because the industry has changed obviously and evolved so much in so many different ways in this last, or since Emotion is Dead has come out. um I mean, from an artistic point of view, I mean, do you like to think that you transcend so many genres, and that you are, as a band, the capabilities of the band are far broader than, I guess, what you originally started out as?
Yeah, I think, well, that was one of the things, like at the beginning it started out as a side project, so we just thought we were going to do like a 3 song demo tape. So it was very rooted in that early indie rock, early emo, early kind of post punk sort of thing. But we quickly realized, yeah, that was cool and that's fun and we like that. But it was like, well, we should be able to do more things. And so we just naturally gravitated to trying different things. And, we have a bunch of new music that's not finished and not released yet that continues in that tradition of us trying to stay rooted in what we are, but also not caring and trying to just challenge ourselves. So yeah, I forget the exact question, but I think I sort of touched on it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now, and I guess growing up, what were your influences? Who influenced you, and what made you want to become a musician?
Well, I mean, I was surrounded by music at all times. My parents apparently sang to me every night before I was born. My grandmother had this organ in her house, and I was really close to her. And every time I would go over, she would sit and play like old hymns and old folk songs on the organ. And my dad listened to like Motown soul music around the house pretty much all day, every day. So my earliest memories were like, the Temptations and Marvin Gaye and Smokey Robinson and the Four Tops and the Supremes and Martha and the Vandellas, like all that kind of stuff. And then it just became, then it went from listening to that to listening to what was the pop music on the radio stations and what it was like Phil Collins and whatever Aerosmith and Australian bands like In Excess, of course, and then quickly from there, Nirvana comes out, and then that just opens the world to all this other stuff. And of course, I had my metal phase, which still I'm still in probably to a certain degree. But I think like, yeah, it's just a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Now, the last time you were in Australia was the early 2000s. And if my research is correct, you were here for about 3 weeks on that tour. You got to see a
We
bit of
were.
the country.
Yeah.
Um, is this a fly in, fly out series of 3 shows, or do you get to spend some time and revisit Australia again?
We'll get to revisit a little bit, but it's not nearly as long, it's not nearly as long as the last time. But hopefully we can pack in as many things as possible. I'm going to see how many good coffee shops I could go to in the amount of time I'm there.
Absolutely. You'll have no problems with that in Melbourne, I can assure you.
That's
They're
can't
everywhere.
wait.
They're everywhere. So, what was your fondest memory of that first Australian tour?
Had a lot of fond memories. It was really fun. It was the first time that I ever got to drive on what we would call the wrong side of the road and what we would say like the wrong side of the steering wheel. And I remember just it's such a simple memory, but I remember we had like a minivan and then there was like a separate truck for all the equipment. So we were just traveling in a minivan. And I remember I was driving it and I'm just like out in the middle. It's like the outback or somewhere. It feels like there's nothing around. I'm driving. I'm like, wow, this is so cool. I'm on the other side of the world. I'm driving. I'm on the wrong side of the road, and my steering wheel's over here. And then I look to my right, and there was a kangaroo like hopping alongside, and I was like, this is like the quintessential like Australian experience for me. So that always sticks out as something I just remember very fondly because it was so different than anything I had. I never experienced that whole sequence of events couldn't have happened in America. So it's cool.
Yeah, and the fans have obviously stayed loyal and by your side. The band's had a few hiatuses, a couple of stops and starts, but reforming again. When you sort of say that the Spill Canvas sort of inspired that, and then obviously new music came out in 2021. What's the future look like for the Juliana Theory?
We have a record that will be soon, like done pretty soon, and I think it's really good. Um, I'm excited about it, and hopefully we'll just continue to play a bunch of shows and figure out how to keep doing as much as we can. And we're pretty We're Josh and I are both very creative. Like we don't really ever stop writing music, and we're always sending each other song ideas and always working on stuff. So hopefully we can keep doing this for a long time.
Mm. So in those moments of hiatus, I mean, obviously, as you said, you write quite a bit. Um, does writing and writing in the style of the Juliana Theory come naturally, or do you tend to do, I guess, indulge yourself in different styles and tastes?
Well, I'm lucky because my day job is I'm a film composer, and so I get to sort of every time you do a new movie, it is a different. It's like making a different record, but it can be way more than that because it's like you're starting a new band each time you do a movie. So it's like it's a whole new set of instruments, a whole new set of themes, it's a whole new feeling, and all the parameters are different. So in a way, I think I used to feel like, oh, the Juliana theory feels limiting because it was my only out, like it was my only real source of creative output. But now that I'm doing multiple other things creatively, it actually allows the Juliana theory to be more of like an anchor point, which I've never really thought about this till right now, but it's like a familiar old friend that I I'm not going to say that it's necessarily easy because I'm still always trying to be creative and push myself and do something we haven't done or do a better version or whatever my thought of that is at the time. But it's like, I know what this band should feel like. I know what the songs should feel like. They have a certain emotional core to them and a certain mood and a certain set of things that I think make them a Juliana Theory song. And I think that's like a cool thing to just now have that anchor to be able to go back to. And then so it's like I can go do these weird movies or whatever and or a side project. And Josh has multiple other he's at another band that he does. And it's like it's nice to be able to go and be creative and then be like, we can also come and do the Juliana Theory and it's creative, but we know what it is. And so it's like, yeah, I think it's cool.
Exactly, awesome. And when it comes to playing live, is there a show through your career that has just stood out, and why?
I can't say there's one show in particular, but if I had to say one show, if I had to just say one, it would be so when we really broke up in like 2006, did a reunion show in 2000, did a like a 6 shows in 2010, and then didn't do anything till that acoustic tour, and then that made us think like, okay, we should get the band back together and do play Emotion is Dead for 20 years in the US. And then COVID happened. And so that tour got postponed a year and I know that it was like everybody's like, you're in lock-in for whatever. We were like it's like 8 months or whatever, barely seeing anybody, and you're not really having human contact. And if you are, you're wearing a mask. And it was like, okay, so the band hasn't really played any shows. We've barely seen anybody, and society was still sort of shut down. But then it was reopening, and we planned this tour, and then it has to get pushed a year. And so our first show when that came back a year later was really the first time playing with a full band in a long time. And it was the first time after COVID and people are still wearing masks in the audience. And we were like, kind of just didn't know what to expect because we hadn't played in so long. And people were still leery about being in an audience and being all together in a room. And so we didn't know, like, is anybody going to come to the show? Is it going to be awkward? Are people going to be weird? Are we going to suck? Is there going to be any energy? And we got on stage and it was like the most magical feeling because everybody was together and we looked out, everybody was singing and we were all like connected because it really did feel only a few months shorter like, oh, we're so isolated. We barely get like human contact. We hardly get to like, will there ever be live music again? You honestly didn't know for a little bit. So when it came back under those circumstances, it really felt like it was much bigger than us. It just felt like we were a part of other people, like welcoming themselves back to coming back to being in a room with people. Because I think that collective experience of live music is really important, like that. It's the same way as like watching a movie in a theater. There's a collective energy that is bigger than any of us, and it's hard to explain or quantify in words, but it's real. And so when you feel it, it's like it can be pretty powerful.
And when you first get on stage and you start a show, how long does it take for that connective energy to really sink in?
Sometimes it's really quick. Sometimes you feel it before you even get on stage. Sometimes you feel like you have to win the audience over a little bit. And then every once in a while, you have one of those shows where it feels like there's just something wrong in the air. It's like, oh, something feels off in the chemistry or something. And, I'll get off stage and be like, oh man, that show was bad or whatever. And then everybody else in the band will be like, what are you talking about? That was great or whatever. So sometimes it's just it's weird in that regard, but I think most of the time you can feel right away that like you almost always just feel that connection with everybody. When you're looking out, I'm looking out and I'm smiling at people and I'm seeing people smiling and they're singing and they look like they're having a good time and they're remembering being 14 years old or whatever age they were. And it's like just that power that music has to kind of transport you back in time or to really the sense memory. It's really cool.
And the show itself, obviously, its emotion is dead in full. Will there be any surprises thrown in, any new material?
We'll play. There's definitely going to be a few. There'll be a few other things played for sure.
Excellent, excellent. Um, we're pretty much out of time. I really would like to thank you for your time today, Brad. Looking forward to the shows in Melbourne, Sydney, and Brisbane. I think it's 18th through 20th of July. Welcome back to the country. And again, thank you for your time with us here at the Rockpit today. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you in our fine country shortly.
Can't wait. Thank you so much.